Welcome to this explainer. Look, we've all been there, right? A business goes under, a relationship completely falls apart, or you just hit this absolute wall of profound burnout. And when you're at the bottom, that pain, man, it feels inescapable. But what if the very way we process that pain is actually based on a massive illusion? Today, we're diving into the Diamond Sutra. Now, we're not looking at this as a religious text. Instead, think of it as an incredibly precise manual, a cognitive operating system upgrade for how your mind handles reality. It's really the ultimate catalyst to get you moving again when you feel totally stuck.
So why does hitting rock bottom actually hurt so much? Well, according to our source material, when we face massive failure or burnout, our minds don't just, register the loss and peacefully move on. Not at all. Instead, they just spin. They get caught in these endless, agonizing loops of anxiety and mental friction. And the reason why is pretty simple. We are desperately holding on to the things we've lost. Our minds are basically superglued to past identities, lost money, damaged reputations, or even just expectations of a future that has totally vanished. We end up exhausting massive amounts of energy battling a reality that has already changed, all because a very rigid version of ourselves is flat out refusing to accept it.
To break out of this trap, the text introduces a pretty radical paradigm shift. It says, all conditioned phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows. It totally challenges us to see that the things we absolutely agonize over, our social status, our relationships, our wealth, even our perfect health, they are fundamentally impermanent. Think about it. If you treat a delicate soap bubble like it's a solid iron cannonball, you're going to be constantly terrified of it popping, right? The suffering we feel at rock bottom comes entirely from treating these fragile bubbles as if they are permanent, solid realities.
And this brilliantly illustrates what the Diamond Sutra actually is all about. Like I said, we aren't talking about religious dogma here. The word diamond, or vajra in the original text, actually refers to an unbreakable substance, something that can destroy absolutely any other material but cannot be destroyed itself. Just imagine wielding a diamond-hard sword of wisdom that's specifically meant to slash right through the false realities and the mental friction that keep us trapped in pain. It's essentially an operating system designed to cut away everything that isn't real, leaving you with just pure, unburdened clarity.
Now, a huge part of this mental upgrade requires us to rethink how we process time. Specifically, there are 3 time frames that completely drain our energy. The text states, past mind cannot be grasped, present mind cannot be grasped, future mind cannot be grasped. Think about how much we suffer because we constantly obsess over a past that literally no longer exists, or we panic over a future that hasn't even happened yet, or we try to freeze the present moment right before it slips away. We're constantly trying to grasp the ungraspable. And frankly, that is just exhausting.
To fix this exhaustion, the sutra relies on a core reality formula. It's a 3-step logical pattern that shows up over and over. A is not A, therefore it is called A. Sounds a bit like a riddle, right? But let's break down these 3 actionable steps of cognitive reframing. Step 1 is the label. This is where we acknowledge the everyday concept we use to navigate the world. Step 2 is the emptiness. This is the realization that this concept is actually an illusion. It has no permanent, fixed reality. And finally, step 3 is the reality. Having totally shattered the illusion, we can now freely use the label again, but this time without any rigid attachment to it.
Let's apply this practically. The ideal job is not an ideal job. Therefore, it is a job. So, first, you want the perfect career. But then you realize the perfect job is an absolute illusion. It's really just a temporary combination of conditions, people, and tasks that will inevitably change. There is literally no permanent ideal. By realizing this emptiness, you can actually engage with your real, flawed, everyday work without the agonizing weight of expectations. You stop crying over the fact that it isn't perfect, and you just get to work.
The really crucial point here is that hitting rock bottom hurts mostly because the rigid I, your ego, is hurting. The text outlines 4 specific illusions we absolutely have to drop. First, the ego, which is the belief in an independent, permanent self. Second, the person, meaning our fixed judgments of others. Third, the beings, our fixed ideas about how the world should operate. And fourth, the lifespan, our obsession with time, age, and legacy. If you can manage to drop these rigid concepts, the you that feels like it's failing just evaporates. It frees up a massive amount of energy to rebuild because the suffering literally loses its target.
So there's a pretty stark contrast between the trapped ego and the liberated mind. The trapped ego generates immense mental friction by constantly obsessing over gain and loss. It's always asking, how does this make me look? Or why did this happen to me? It's heavy, it's self-centered, and it's utterly exhausted. The liberated mind, on the other hand, flows like water. Because it's dropped the illusions of a fixed self and fixed outcomes, it acts entirely without expectation. It engages deeply with reality, but it never gets stuck when that reality inevitably shifts.
And this brings us to the ultimate cure. It's based on a famous 7-character phrase from the text, which roughly translates to abiding nowhere while generating the mind. The historical anecdote here is actually fascinating. There was an illiterate woodcutter named Huineng who heard this single phrase out in the street and experienced an instant, profound awakening. Abiding nowhere basically means allowing your mind to generate action, create value, and show compassion without getting stuck on any single outcome, identity, or emotion. Your mind shouldn't act like glue. It should act like a mirror, reflecting everything perfectly, but holding on to absolutely nothing.
Let's see how this actually plays out in everyday reality when we compare our reactions. Think about when money arrives. The trapped mind feels greed, but the liberated mind uses it without attachment. When money leaves, the trapped mind falls into total despair, but the liberated mind, it lets it go without regret. And the exact same goes for love. The trapped mind turns it into possessiveness and then resentment when it ends. The liberated mind cherishes love fully while it's there and blesses it when it moves on. You can still engage fully in the human experience, but by not attaching to the results, you remain completely free.
Which brings us to this incredible power of paradox. Realizing life is a dream actually allows you to finally wake up. Our source material beautifully points out that modern quantum physics actually mirrors this ancient insight. When you break reality down to its absolute core, there's no solid, unchanging particle. It's all just interconnected energy and space. And recognizing that our rigid world is an illusion doesn't make you passive. Actually, it's the ultimate source of motivation. It empowers you to act boldly and joyfully because, fundamentally, there is nothing you can permanently lose. You are essentially playing with house money.
So how do we actually practice this? Well, true practice isn't hiding away in some remote temple on a mountain or trying to reach a magical state of trance. It's actually found in profoundly simple everyday actions. It's washing the dishes and actually feeling the water and the plates, rather than letting your mind obsess over tomorrow's meetings. It's accepting a career loss without letting it define your entire identity. It's noticing that quiet space between your thoughts to find true peace. Enlightenment is simply being fully present, without all that heavy baggage of the ego weighing you down.
This is perhaps the absolute most vital takeaway of this whole explainer. Do not be attached, but still go all out. You see, this philosophy doesn't mean you just stop caring. In fact, when you hit rock bottom, this is exactly how you rise back up. You pursue massive success, you create incredible value, and you rebuild your life. Not to satisfy a fragile ego, but simply because it is the right thing to do right now. The engine driving you completely changes. You do these things to contribute and truly experience life, working with maximum effort but with absolutely zero expectation.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply provocative question. Think about the lowest point you've ever hit. Think about the exhaustion and the pain. Now ask yourself, if the you that failed, the you that was hurt, and the you that is so incredibly tired was just an illusion made of temporary conditions, who are you right now? You are entirely free to leave that heavy, exhausted version of yourself behind. You can step forward into your life today with absolute clarity, with a diamond sword in hand, and with a fully liberated mind. Think about that for a while.